Welcome back to All Things Mysterious, where we talk about true crime, paranormal, and the supernatural. I'm Matt.
I'm Jordan.
Today this is probably one of the best stories I've ever done. Definitely the most in-depth. I'm not going to even say how long it took me to do the research and to actually type it all up. Let's just say there's 2 days where I didn't get very much sleep at all. So, this is going to be a good one. Jordan, do you know anything about Roswell?
Matter of fact,
Nothing.
I do.
Oh, I can't believe you don't know anything. Well, guess what? Lucky for you, I'm going to tell you all about it.
Lucky for you, I know all sorts of things about Roswell. That is correct, Matthew.
I know you know nothing. I can't believe that. Everyone should know about Roswell.
I'm going to figure out what case you have, figure out all of the things about it, and beat you to the damn.
The funny thing is, that's one reason why I always tell you something different.
I hate you so much.
She honestly thought I was coming in here to do a cryptid case.
No, you know what? You leave your phones on your desk all the time at work. I'm going to figure this shit out.
You just gotta figure out my password. Good luck. I don't even know my password half the time.
I believe that, actually.
That's why I got fingerprint ID. Okay, so let's start just with a brief overview. Very brief. The Roswell UFO incident refers to a series of events that occurred in July 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico, sparking decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. Jordan's favorite thing in the world.
Conspiracy theory.
It all began when a local rancher named Mac Brazel, awesome name by the way, just
Really proud of you for pronouncing it correctly. Because I think you pronounced it correctly.
Honestly, that guy's got to be the most famous guy when it comes to, especially aliens. Definitely. So Mac discovered unusual debris on his property, described as metallic fragments, strange materials, and beams with hieroglyphic symbols.
I jinxed it.
You did. Brazel reported the findings to the military at Roswell Army Field. In an initial press release, the military announced the recovery of a flying disc, suggesting the possibility of an unidentified flying object or UFO. However, within hours, a second press release contradicted the first, claiming that the debris was from a weather balloon.
Weather balloon.
That's the
always
worst.
A weather balloon.
I know. That's the worst friggin'. Honestly, the military needs a better person to come up with their cover stories.
If anybody else out there has ever seen, there used to be a TV show called Haven. I don't know if you've ever seen Haven, but every single thing is a gas leak. Every single thing that's ever happened at Haven, it's just a gas leak. The military's version. It's just a weather balloon.
Yeah. So this abrupt change fueled suspicion and gave rise to the belief that the military was covering up the true nature of the incident. Honestly, what they did, especially with the timing, is they made it 100 times worse than it actually would have been. They probably could have left with the initial press release, and maybe after a few days, it would have just blown over, I think. I honestly, truly believe that. Because we had not too long ago, they had the government, Senate or House committee where that guy from Area 51 or whatever, I forgot who he was, scientist or something, actually claimed that there was, that we recovered alien DNA and alien crafts, basically confirming Roswell.
Yeah, but wasn't that during the height of...
Yeah.
Us were just okay, and...
Yeah. Everybody's we already knew this. Come on. Tell us something we don't know.
All of us were just okay, cool, great, and
that's my point is they made it so much worse by lying. We'll be like, okay, sweet, there's aliens. Cool.
All right. Fair point.
Yeah. So eyewitness accounts have since emerged, with some individuals claiming to have seen not just debris, but also non-humanoid bodies at the crash site. The conflicting information, coupled with the lack of transparency from the military, has led to widespread speculation about extraterrestrial involvement and a government cover-up. The Roswell incident was become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring numerous books, documentaries, movies, and TV shows. While some believe it was an extraterrestrial event, skeptics argue that it could be explained by classified government projects, such as Project Mogul. Weird name. But we'll get into more of that later. So despite various investigations and official explanations, the Roswell UFO incident remains an enduring mystery, captivating the imagination of people worldwide. The end.
Oh, great episode.
Just kidding. I got one. That was just a brief overview. I'm telling you, like, we could set this up as like a whole TV show. I even did the whole thing where they like repeat stuff just to remind you of where they left off before the commercial break. We have no commercial breaks, but we're gonna pretend we do.
Last episode.
Before the break, we talked about the overview.
Like, they do that on last episode on, and I'm like, listen, we've been binging this. I know what happened last episode.
Awesome show, by the way. I got onto watching TikTok videos of it. Yeah. So let's set the stage. In July 1947, Roswell, New Mexico was a small, quiet town, nestled in the vast and arid landscapes of the American Southwest, known for its proximity to military installations and as a hub for ranching and agriculture. Roswell was removed from the bustling urban centers of the time. And why the fuck can I read all this perfectly?
I don't know. I'm staring you down, hoping that you keep messing up, but you're not. So
I don't know what changed today.
You're doing great, though. Keep it up.
No joke. I didn't have time to actually basically practice this. So
The practicing is messing you
maybe
up.
it
I don't
is.
know.
I don't know, because I read through it, everything, double checked everything, but I just didn't actually get to practice it like I usually do. So maybe I'm just not gonna practice anymore. The town's population was just over 20,000, and the local economy thrived on ranching, with wide expanses of open land surrounding the community. The desert landscape, characterized by mesas and sagebrush, I did mess that up, painted on a serene and seemingly uneventful picture of life in the region. In the midst of the tranquility, the events that unfolded in July of that year would catapult Roswell into the annals of UFO lore. The discovery made by rancher Mac Brazel, God damn it. Mac Brazel on the Foster Ranch, located about 30 miles north of Roswell, would disrupt the usual calm of this southwestern town. The summer days in Roswell were typically hot, with temperatures soaring into the 90s, creating a shimmering heat haze over the desert terrain. It was against this backdrop that the mysterious debris, described as metallic fragments and unconventional materials, was found on the ranch. The military presence in and around Roswell was significant, with the Roswell Army Airfield, or RAAF, playing a key role. In the post-World War II era, military bases like RAAF were at the forefront of technological advancements and classified projects. Against this backdrop of rural tranquility and military significance, the events surrounding the Roswell UFO incident would unfold, setting the stage for a mystery that continues to captivate the world's imagination. And of course, fuel speculation about extraterrestrial encounters and government secrecy.
All the government.
Yeah, and that's, again, I'm just going to say this, government, if you're listening to this, stop trying to cover stuff up. You're not good at it.
Weather balloons. Always the weather balloon.
I want to say whoever does like these government cover-ups just has like a wheel that they spin where they, have like a bunch of different stuff on there, and they
I just feel like weather balloon is like on there 20 times.
Gas explosion is on there once.
The rest of it's
yeah. Seems to be their go-to, honestly.
What's the other one? No. It was just a practice test.
Okay, let's start with Mac Brazel's discovery on the ranch. Let's get into that a little more. So, in the vast expanses of the Foster Ranch, located approximately 30 miles north of Roswell, New Mexico, the ordinary routines of rancher Mac Brazel were about to be disrupted. In the summer of 1947, a time when lost where I was at now. All right. In early July, Mac Brazel set out on horseback to check his sheep after a severe thunderstorm had passed through the area. Little did he know that this routine check would lead to a discovery that would eventually become a focal point. As Brazel traversed the ranch, he stumbled upon something unusual. Do you know what that is?
I'm assuming.
Wrong.
What we would believe to be a UFO.
The debris, later described by Brazel, obviously consisted of metallic fragments, lightweight materials, and the thing that gets me is the hieroglyphic symbols on the thing. So obviously he was intrigued and perplexed by this. He collected some of the materials and just continued an inspection of the farm, which to me is the weirdest thing ever. I'm like, well, here's some weird stuff. Let me collect some samples and let me go finish the rest of my duties.
Honestly, coming from somebody I've never actually lived on a farm, but I've taken care of a farm several times, and there's a point that you hit where you're just like, I got shit to do and I'm just gonna do it, and I gotta take care of it. So I'm just gonna pick this shit up and keep going, okay? I got stuff to do.
So this is the weirdest part to me. So days later, on July 7th, 1947, Brazel decided to report his discovery to the local authorities. He contacted the Chavez County Sheriff, George Wilcox, and shared the details of the unusual debris he had found on the Foster Ranch. Recognizing the potential significance of the discovery, Sheriff Wilcox promptly notified officials at the Roswell Army Airfield. RAF. To me, that's weird that he waited so long.
That is kind of odd. He was like, found all this stuff. I'm just going to keep it for a while.
And then the sheriff kind of instantly knows that it's probably a big deal, so let's get somebody in here who can...
that is really odd.
Yeah. So Brazel's report set into motion a series of events. Obviously, we're going to get into a lot of them here in a minute after the break. And we're back. Let's kind of get into let's get into more of the description of the debris. So the metallic fragments, the wreckage includes small, lightweight metallic fragments that appear to be part of a larger structure. Witnesses described the metal as unusually thin and possessing unique properties. Some accounts suggested that the metallic material could not be easily bent or damaged, leading to the belief that it was not consistent with conventional aircraft construction. Which, to me, if that's the case, if it was, unable to be broken, how did the UFO crash? And
Exactly. Like, how did it fall apart? Because if there were separate pieces of it everywhere, but it was also broken, how did...
Maybe it just took a lot of force, maybe. I don't know. So, in addition to the metallic fragments, the debris field contained unconventional materials that defied easy identification. Witnesses reported finding lightweight yet durable substances that did not resemble typical aircraft components. The materials were said to be resistant to burn-in or break-in, further adding to the mystery. That's just weird.
So the whole thing...
Yeah, it's like, and not saying I don't believe this at all, because, I mean, obviously at this point we kind of know that it happened. But, like, how could something be unbreakable yet breakable at the same time?
What? I'm trying to think, like...
And did they actually get bigger pieces of the UFO that we just don't know about at the time? I mean,
and I'm sure that they all of that a secret.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the true crime cases that I do have, like, called guilt that they keep to themselves and things public. So I'm sure that all that they get from it. But, like, how does some breakable therapy? I don't.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I guess if there's already pieces of it that maybe they had put together that fell apart on, if that makes sense, like.
It's so weird to me, like, because it's almost like contradictory. Like, you got this material that's unbreakable, but yet it obviously had to break to be there.
Exactly. Otherwise, it would only be one piece.
Yeah.
Not pieces.
I mean, that's kind of like the big thing there that kind of gives me a pause. No, obviously it was, 1947, so, I mean...
Technically, what I'm thinking, like, if it was made of multiple pieces of one thing, like, I don't know, I'm thinking, like, multiple pieces of metal put together on...
Oh, like, kind of like panels?
Yeah, like panels. Thinking if...
Yeah.
Like, maybe the panels themselves were unbreakable, but the panels themselves were put on ship, and then when the panels, like, crashed, the panels came apart, like, off the ship, but you couldn't break the individual panels.
I mean,
but it still doesn't make a lot of sense, because you still have to have the individual panels.
Yeah, and
like,
to
you
fit
still have to make the individual panels, right?
Yeah, because they're talking about, little fragments, so, I mean, those would have to be, like,
well, that's fair.
Little tiny. Like, I think from other accounts I've heard is, that there was, like, almost like tinfoil type material. Like, those, like, space blankets.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's kind of shiny and then, but it's really thin.
Like the emergency.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some that said that it was just like that. That you couldn't actually, but you couldn't bend it or like crumple it up. It was just, like, really strong.
Got me thinking.
Then there,
I don't know, that's way beyond me.
Yeah. So among the most intriguing aspects were the hieroglyphics that they found. So witnesses, including Mac Brazel, reported finding strange markings on some of the debris. The symbols were often described as geometric patterns or characters that did not correspond to any recognizable human language. That's kind of the weird part, right? Because honestly, I don't even remember ever hearing about the symbols.
I don't either. All I remember was hearing about the ship and found.
Yeah, and then the debris field, and then of course everybody heard about the supposed cover up where the weather balloon.
Giant cover up.
Yeah. So the combination of these elements, unusual metal fragments, unconventional materials, and mysterious symbols contributed to the perception that the debris might be from an extraterrestrial source. The notion was further fueled by eyewitness accounts and the subsequent military response, which initially hinted at the recovery of a flying disc before a sudden reversal to weather balloon explanation.
Oh yeah, the weather balloon. Gotta watch them. They get crazy out there.
I don't know how you get from flying disc to weather balloon.
They look exactly the same, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly the same. Just all exactly the same. I don't know if you they look exactly like.
Yeah, the weather balloon that you don't want any kind of metal to weigh down, you know, that kind of weather balloon.
Exactly. The balloon is made all the metal.
Yeah. The peculiar nature.
Why do you keep putting that word in there?
I don't know. The strange nature of the debris became a central point of interest in the investigation of the Roswell UFO incident, leading to decades of speculation and debate about the true origin and composition of the materials found on the Foster Ranch in July 1947. So now let's get into the initial press release. Because now we're getting into the good stuff. The initial confusion surrounding the Roswell UFO incident began when, Mac Brazel reported the discovery. The military, specifically the Roswell Army Airfield, intensified the mystery and led to the sequence. So, upon receiving the report from Mac Brazel, the military took swift action. Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer at the Roswell Army Field, and we're just going to call it the Army Airfield. So that's a lot of words to say. Let's just say the Army base. We'll just say that. Was dispatched to investigate the debris. Marcel, along with others, visited the Foster Ranch and collected some of the wreckage for further examination. On July 8, 1947, the next day, the public information officer at the Roswell base, Lieutenant Walter Hout, issued a press release. Issued a press release that would capture the world's attention. The release stated that the military had recovered a flying disc from the ranch near Roswell. This announcement, echoing the possibility of an unidentified flying object, ignited widespread interest and speculation. However, the excitement generated by the initial press release was short-lived. Within hours, higher authorities intervened, and a second press release was issued on July 8th, contradicting the first. The military revised its statement, claiming that the debris was in fact from a weather balloon and not a flying disc.
Oh, what we said was actually wrong. Just kidding, though.
So here's the thing.
Just kidding.
They were so quick to get this out that they actually screwed themselves over. Because if they would have waited a day and been like, we had more time to investigate the materials and we concluded that it was a weather balloon.
Exactly.
It would have been a lot more believable. A lot
more credible.
Not like 3 hours later. No. It wasn't a flying object. It was a weather balloon. Promise us. We're telling you the truth.
Well, it's like when you ask one of your kids, something.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay.
You just know automatically, that's a lie.
Yeah. I mean, it's too quick. Forget about the whole weather balloon thing for just a second. It was just the speed of it because, honestly, I think the first press release was probably released too early because they didn't really have time to examine a lot of the debris and stuff.
Took a quick look at it and they're like, yep, it's definitely a disc. Yep.
But, however, the second one was way too quick then. Because, 3 hours later, supposedly they have an idea now. Who, by the way, these upper, people in the military didn't actually examine anything at that point. Because there's no way they could have got there in time.
A phone call.
Yeah. They just basically said, well, this is not good, so let's release another statement saying that it was a weather balloon. So, the revised explanation attributing the debris to a weather balloon introduced an element of skepticism and confusion. The sudden reversal in the military's narrative raised questions about the transparency of the government. The conflicting press releases and the abrupt change in the official story fueled speculation. Obviously, the discrepancy between flying disc and weather balloon was kind of too big of a leap.
things.
Yeah. So obviously, this was probably one of the pivotal moments in this whole thing, and like I said, it is literally the probably the thing that kept this alive for so long. So the swift intervention of the U.S. military, obviously shaped this whole thing and blew it way out of proportion, I think. As evident by, the fact that, we basically had confirmation that aliens crash landed here. And we're just like, whatever. We already know.
Most of us would have just been like, wow, okay, that's something. And I'd probably just, well, that's something. And then after a while, it would have just blown over. But no, we're going to make a giant deal about it because we covered it.
All right. So the speculation about the military's motives in handling the Roswell UFO incident obviously has been a persistent aspect of the controversy. Several theories have emerged over the years, contributing to the enduring mystery of the events that unfolded in July 1947. So, one prevalent speculation, I hate that word, is that the military, in collaboration with higher government authorities, engaged in a deliberate cover-up of an extraterrestrial encounter. Proponents of this theory argue that the initial acknowledgement of a flying disc in the press release was an inadvertent disclosure, and the subsequent reversal to a weather balloon was an attempt to suppress the true nature of the recovered debris. And I will note, this is obviously the correct one.
Accurate.
I mean,
there's not really another way to look at it. Let's just be honest.
I mean, obviously at this point we know that they covered it up.
There's side 1, side 2, and the truth.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So surprise! That's the theory. Is actually the truth.
Just no.
Yeah. So some suggest that the military, in the midst of the Cold War and heightened tensions, was driven by national security concerns. The idea is that if the debris was part of a secret military project or experimental technology, the military might have sought to downplay the incident to prevent potential adversaries from gaining insights into classified programs. Now, obviously, number one, the first one was the correct one. But let's just say, for instance, I do like this one theory, especially at the time that it happened, 1947. Right in the midst of the Cold War.
That's very true.
So, to me, I mean, that if we didn't know the first one was the truth, this would be the next logical one.
It has some actual merit.
Yeah.
So that's fair. But at the same.
Yeah. This next one.
There's not. Though.
Yeah, exactly. So this next one is probably, obviously, going back to the fact that we were all told about this, what was it, a year ago now? 2 years ago? I think it's like in 22 or when the thing. I don't know.
I don't know.
20, 21, 22, and 23 kind of all blurred together. But so another speculation is that authorities, cognizant of the potential impact on public morale and stability, opted to change the narrative to avoid causing panic. The idea here is that acknowledging the recovery of a flying disc might have led to widespread fear and uncertainty during a period when the world was still recovering from World War II.
don't feel like that was the actual logic there.
I mean, it does in theory make sense. And granted, times are different now than back in 1947. We're obviously we have more technology and more, information at our fingertips than they did back then. So I can kind of see this one, but it still is, yeah. I mean,
I can kind of see it, but at the same time, I just feel like they were trying to cover everything up. Like, no, don't worry. You don't have anything to worry about. It's all fine. This is all fine. You don't have to worry about anything. There's aliens don't exist.
Again, government, if you ever need to cover anything up, and this is just free advice, do not use weather balloon. It will not work.
Try something more believable, like a complete and full lie that makes sense. Because honestly, I would be more than a weather balloon.
Oh, I know. Come up with something creative, Have fun with it, but...
Yeah, really, have some fun with it. I would be more likely to believe that. Like, if they came out with something that sounded insane, I'd just be like, you know what? That might actually be true. Sounds completely ridiculous, so probably.
Yeah. So, skeptics propose that the debris was part of Project Mogul, a top-secret government project involving high-altitude balloons equipped with listening devices to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. The military's quick reversal in this theory could be attributed to the desire to maintain secrecy of the classified project. Again, we're going back to the before that kind of ties in with national security concerns. So I think that kind of is, obviously we know one is true, but if we didn't,
it's a balloon.
Yeah.
The materials not match.
But I will say, because it's a top secret project, it's high altitude with listening devices and other stuff on it.
It might have more stuff on it.
More metallic stuff.
But still, it just does not match.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, obviously the national security, this is just more of kind of a refined national security.
It does at the same time, but even then, why would they say that it was actually a balloon if they wanted to release, if they were listening to people?
Well, I mean, because they didn't release that it was a Project Mogul balloon. I mean, they did actually. I think at one point they did release it, but that was just because by that point they were trying to kill down the But yeah, obviously it didn't. I mean, it never went away. That's why we're still here. So some theories suggest that the conflicting statements were a result of bureaucratic confusion and miscommunication within the military chain of command. According to this perspective, the left hand might not have been fully aware of what the right hand was doing, leading to contradictory announcements.
Gee, I wonder.
Yeah. I think that's right, but not in the way that they're trying to imply. I think that's exactly how, we kind of got a better idea of what's going on, because, the right hand was saying that, hey, it's a flying saucer, and the left hand was saying, no, don't tell them that. We'll go with weather balloon. That's our favorite thing.
Good old weather balloon theory.
Oh, God. So, in essence, speculation about the military's motives ranges from, intentional cover-up to considerations of national security, public perception, the bureaucratic shortcoming. Regardless of the specific motivation, the handling of the Roswell incidents by the military remains a subject of intense scrutiny and debate. Obviously, regardless of what actually happened there, I mean, we already know, but regardless of that, this is a blueprint of what not to do on the government's end, because they did not.
And then they've more or less done that over and over and over on other random things.
They never learned.
No, they don't. They're like, oh, another random thing found in the sky? Weather balloon.
Do you want to get into some eyewitness accounts?
Yes, obvious.
So obviously we went over Mac Brazel. We went over Jesse Marcel, which was the major. So Glenn Davis. Do you know him? Feel
I
sorry
know
for you.
of him. I've heard the name.
So he was a mortician. He claimed to have received unusual requests from military personnel at the Roswell base. According to Dennis, he was asked about child-sized coffins and observed strange debris at the military base. His account added another layer to the Roswell narrative. Suggestion that the discovery of non-humanoid bodies, because obviously grays, are said to be small. I don't know how much I believe him.
Question on that would be like, they had the bodies. Why would they?
Yeah.
I feel like they would keep them for research instead
Yeah.
of like asking coffin.
Exactly.
It would definitely keep them for. They wouldn't carry them or be asking.
No, I will say maybe at first they were kind of didn't know what to do. Because I mean, at this point, you don't know if their bodies are explosive. You don't know if they're poisonous. You don't know if, I mean, there's a lot you don't know. So, maybe they wanted to put them in a coffin. And maybe they just wanted to put them in a coffin to transport them. Because really, if you're going to transport coffins, who's going to look inside?
That is a fair point. I wouldn't be looking inside, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, 1947, I don't think people would be looking inside. I would.
Wouldn't be. I wouldn't be.
Oh, I would.
Now.
I would.
You would. Of course you would. Fucking weird.
Hey, military's, hauling around a child coffin. I kind of want to know why.
Coffins.
Frank Kaufman, he was a firefighter stationed at the Roswell Army Base, claimed to have witnessed military personnel loading a metallic-looking object into a truck. He described the object as resembling a large overturned disc. Kaufman's testimony supported the idea that more than just a weather balloon was involved. Again, I mean, he was a firefighter and he was stationed at, on the Roswell base. So I think he's more believable than the Glenn Davis.
That we can at the time.
And, no one disputes the fact that he was a firefighter and he was stationed on the base. So now, does that mean that necessarily what he said was true? I mean, obviously we kind of know it was true now.
Yeah, we're pretty aware that it's pretty much true at this point.
It's like, it's kind of like looking at this, like, and looking at what we know now, based on even if I wrote the script, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, how much we know.
I'm glad we waited.
Yeah. And honestly, that's why, I still wanted to include this stuff because a lot of these are, the most prevalent, theories and, eyewitness accounts and stuff of this case. Now, again, obviously a lot has changed because we know now. But still, it's still a good thing to look at because it is really fascinating. Just the whole, web of everything.
Lies.
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about Glenn Dennis's nurse friends. So Dennis mentioned two nurse friends, Alice Knight and Edna Strickland, who reportedly claimed to have seen humanoid bodies at the military base. According to their accounts, the bodies were small and had distinct features not resembling humans. Again, I don't trust Glenn Davis. Or Glenn Dennis, sorry. Glenn Davis just sounds more right than Glenn Dennis.
Does.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, he's kind of, as far as eyewitnesses, he's kind of low on the believable scale for me. The nurse friends, I don't, unless they were military nurses.
Exactly.
I don't know why they would have civilian nurses. Because, I'm almost guaranteed.
You can put names to the nurses. Try them be, can we, I don't know, weird, but don't get me wrong. I'm aware that we have verified for sure aliens do exist at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just kind of jumped on the bandwagon almost. And
that's where I'm at. I think that they just want.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I saw aliens when I was there.
Yeah. So Barney Barnett. He was a civilian working in the White Sands Proving Grounds. And he claimed to have seen a white saucer. White. Sorry. Claimed to have seen a saucer-shaped object crash in the desert. His testimony, though not widely known until later, added an additional perspective. So, he again, I mean, he didn't come forward straight away. He kind of took it, which to me gives him a little more credibility.
Yeah, it does, because, like, I mean, same time, I don't know.
But again, waiting so long, it makes it harder to verify any of the information. But again,
at the same time, it's like, saw some weird crash thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. So if I needed to tell somebody about it, it's just something I saw.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I saw a UFO crash, I don't know if I'd ever say anything. I mean, I'd tell you and probably tell it on the podcast.
Right.
But I mean, if we didn't have the podcast, I don't think, I don't know.
Like, what do you do about that? It's just like, well, I saw that. Okie dokie then.
So it's essential to note that while these testimonies have contributed to the intrigue surrounding the Roswell incident, skeptics argue that some may be influenced by the passage of time, the influence of media, or the desire for attention. The credibility of eyewitness accounts remains a subject of debate. Which, even though, I mean, we do know now, I think the credibility still kind of can be debated because, like I said, I mean, Glenn Dennis, I think he was just trying to get attention. Same thing with his nurse friends. I mean, like Frank Kaufman, I think he probably was, gave an
incredible way.
Jesse Marcel, I mean, I think he's probably the most credible because he was the major who.
Exactly.
And then obviously Mac Brazel, which, to be fair,
some weird things.
Yeah, he changed.
Why did he sit on it?
Yeah,
I can understand like starting to clean it up, and I don't know though. That's weird. Don't get me wrong. I understand. You're on a farm. You got crap to.
Yeah.
Okay, like you got livestock to tend. You got things to. You got fences to fix.
Yeah.
Got wrong. And you got things you have to tend to like all day, every day, sun up to sundown.
Oh yeah. And then it was.
But then like, probably should report it. Like.
Yeah.
Right then, but. That and waited on it. So
I mean, obviously, like Mac Brazel, he would end up changing the story. Supposedly got paid off by the government because I think right after he changed his story, he got a brand new truck. I think he even paid off his mortgage on the farm or something, I heard. But I mean, honestly, do you blame him? I mean, if I was there and the government offered to give me money to keep my mouth shut, I probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, especially back then, like, okay.
So now let's kind of, obviously what we were talking about earlier about the, reasons why maybe some of their eyewitness accounts weren't as accurate. Let's get into a little more why. So eyewitnesses reported their experience many years after the Roswell incident. The passage of time can impact memory, lead into potential inaccuracies or alterations in details. Moreover, exposure to media coverage and cultural discussions about UFOs may have influenced the recollection of events. Now, that we obviously do know that you can actually alter your memories.
Every time that you collect a memory, it changes.
Yep.
Collecting.
Yeah.
Of your memory.
Yeah, and unintentionally you end up changing it. So I mean, we do obviously know that that's a thing. However, obviously not everybody, all the witnesses waited to come forward. I mean, Major Marcel was kind of right away. He never really stayed silent.
Nope, he was right there.
But again, that is obviously a thing. So I mean, which is why I don't necessarily want to go with just strictly, eyewitness accounts. Now, obviously, like the military who were there every single day, actually studied this stuff. Like the guy who went and left Congress and kind of, I think he's more believable just because, once it becomes like an everyday thing, it becomes easier, like you could sit here and describe your job easily, what you do.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
a lot.
Yeah. You know what I mean, though. Like, if it becomes part of your job, it's like, it's not extraordinary at that point. Even, if you worked on alien stuff every single day, at some point it wouldn't become extraordinary anymore.
That's true. At that point, it would just be an everyday occurrence.
Yeah. So, obviously, the media played a significant role in the shaping public perception of Roswell, especially during the early stages. Eyewitnesses may have been exposed to media portrayal. There you go. Of UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters, influencing their memories and interpretations of what they saw. I don't buy that one as much. It's 1947.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, they have like, newspaper. They're not going to have like TV shows and movies and, I mean, they had radio, but
wasn't like the media
yeah.
at all. Not nearly as influential as it is today with social media. Facebook.
I'm glad you talked about social media. Because we're not going to talk about social media. But the social dynamics of the time included the desire of attention or recognition. Could have influenced individuals to provide sensational or embellished accounts. Some eyewitnesses might have been influenced by the prevalent UFO narrative and the cultural fascination with extraterrestrial phenomenon. Yes, I agree. Obviously, Glenn Dennis, I think that's what category he falls under. Yeah.
Nurse friends more or less wanted the same thing as well.
Yeah.
Look, I was there.
Now, the only thing that would make it more believable, like if the nurse friends actually were on the base, and then he kind of like rode on their, tailcoats or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, fine.
So retelling.
Coattails.
Yeah, they do.
That's what it is. Sorry.
Is it coattails?
It's coattails. Riding on their.
This doesn't sound right to me now.
Riding on their. Right?
Just doesn't sound right though.
Coattail.
I think it is too, but it doesn't sound right, does it?
Okay, anyway.
Right. Anyways, if you know what it is, please comment below. So the act of retelling an experience can introduce subtle changes to the person's memory. Additionally, confirmation bias, where individuals unconsciously modify their recollections to align with prevailing beliefs or expectations, might have influenced the consistency of eyewitness statements. Obviously, that kind of goes into the earlier one a little bit, but confirmation bias, I mean, I don't think that had a huge part in this as much as, the retelling, where you change it. But, I mean, it's just a...
Yeah.
Stop yawning over there.
Yawn first.
I know. Yeah, I know it has. So internal consistency within an individual's account and external consistency across multiple eyewitness testimonies are factors that contribute to the credibility. Inconsistencies in details, timelines, or key elements among eyewitness statements may raise questions about the reliability of the overall narrative. Basically, obviously, unless they're saying exactly the same thing. But however, maybe they didn't all have access to the same thing at the same time, Maybe, it's like that old thing where, you could have 6 blind people in a room and each touching a part of the elephant and each one will describe a different animal. It's not until you put all pieces together that you find out that it's an elephant.
Well, yeah. And I mean, think about the episode that we did on LFX.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of us collectively, more or less the same.
Yeah.
But, theoretically, still incorrect. So
Yeah, I mean,
collectively, we're all right and wrong.
yeah.
So
And
it's all over the place.
again, we know, that this happened. But it is a good thing kind of to, not really to like debunk it, I don't think, but kind of just pause for a second and kind of understand that, obviously, like, I think we've talked about this before. Eyewitness accounts to me are like kind of the lowest form of evidence, mostly because of the stuff that I've talked about already. But I think you've got to take it more, not just with the, eyewitness accounts, which in this case, I think because there is so many of them and they've been so consistent, with exception of Mac Brazel, who changed his story, but, then supposedly came into money afterwards. I mean, that's a little suspicious.
Little suspicious.
And I think even later on in his life, he actually came back and said that, what he originally said was actually what happened. But either way, I mean, it's, you've got so many people, in this case, the military personnel that were actually there that have come forward are the ones that I kind of believe more. And the scientists who actually supposedly worked on the
project. I believe the military personnel have less of a about.
Actually, I mean, they've got more to lose by telling the truth than by coming forward.
Exactly.
So one critical aspect of assessing credibility is the availability of physical evidence. In the case of Roswell, the lack of tangible evidence directly supporting the existence of extraterrestrial bodies or spacecraft challenges the credibility of eyewitness claims. So basically what this is saying is, they've done dig sites where supposedly the UFO crashed and they haven't been able to find even a scrap of evidence. Some say that, the military can't obviously be that thorough. But I mean, it's the military with a lot of personnel and a lot of time.
Yeah, I bet you they probably can't.
I mean, I do get that what they're saying, that, you would think that you would find some kind of evidence that they missed. But at the same time, I mean, by this point that they're cleaning stuff up, they kind of know that this is a big deal. So, I mean, they're going to spend a lot of time to make sure they get everything.
Every little tiny.
So, I mean, obviously, I think they, because we know that the evidence existed. But, so, I mean, obviously the government did one thing right. I mean, they hell of a cleanup job.
Got up real good.
Explanation, not so good, but cleanup skills, top notch.
10 out of 10. Just goes into a lot of the blah blah blah. So I mean, basically, that's kind of the whole Roswell thing. It really is a fascinating story. Obviously, the main thing we learned here, besides the fact that, if you didn't know, by the way, they kind of proved the existence of aliens already. So if we're just breaking to you that now, you guys really should watch some, not that I like politics, but watch some Congress stuff. Aliens totally, by the way.
Yeah. And I know she sounded sarcastic there, but she really wasn't.
No, they really do. Like, they announced it and everything during the height of COVID, and they're all busy doing other things, but they were like, oh, by the way, here you go.
So, I mean, a lot has changed, but it is fascinating, like, just to see. This is like one of those things where, like, the conspiracy theory was kind of proved right, which doesn't happen very often, to be honest, but so, I mean,
all kind of new.
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, the fact that this kind of, I think the government, honestly, made this bigger than what it would have been. And I stand by that. If the government wouldn't have been so quick to try to cover this thing up, I think maybe few years or something, it would have died down. Nobody would have cared, and we probably wouldn't even be talking about it today. I mean, because honestly, there was really, I remember after they did like the whole Congress thing, there was a lot of talk about it online. Twitter, Facebook, there was a lot of stuff on there. And then after a few weeks, it kind of died down, and now you really don't hear about it.
Nope, because all of us just were like, well, alrighty then.
Like, duh. But I mean, I think it helps, especially nowadays, because I mean, anybody who's kind of into science and, that you kind of get you kind of live with the thing that there's so many planets in the universe that statistically it's basically inevitable that other alien races exist.
That's what I was going to say. Like, just thinking about us being the only planet with life, like, first of all, that's just honestly selfish and just really weird.
I was going to say the same thing, but I was going to try to use
it's just really selfish. Like, really, we're the only ones. The only ones. No, there's got to be other life out there, period. I don't know if they can visit us or not, but there has to be other life.
I mean, obviously we know they visited us, at least at one point. But yeah, that's always the thing that, like, I never doubted the fact that there were aliens. I mean, because, like I said, statistically, you just can't. There's just too many planets in the, and this is just talking about the known universe. I mean, there's still parts of the universe that we don't know anything about, and we don't know.
Way outside of our own.
Yeah, we don't know how big the universe is. I mean, theoretically, the universe can be infinite. So, the fact that people say, "Oh, there can't be aliens." I mean, obviously, you can't say that because there's no way you could prove that or even know that. But it's just obviously we know that the aliens exist. Obviously, we know that at least one point they were here. I mean, that kind of has been proven. And what else has been proven? That the government sucks at cover up.
Weather balloons.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I think kind of like debunks a lot of other conspiracy theories.
For sure.
Like, it's funny because, no joke, like, and I'm sorry if you believe both of these, because obviously Roswell was a cover-up, confirmed. But there was actually people who would believe that Roswell was a cover-up because the government was so poor at covering it up. But then they also believed that the moon landing was a hoax because the government was so good at, staging it. And it's like, do you not see the contradictoriness in those two statements? I mean, the government can't, cover up alien life on Earth, but they can make you believe that they were on the moon. I mean, it just always... I'm sure I just pissed a lot of people off, but...
Yeah, you might have, but you know what?
We're
just really good at pissing people off, so it's okay. That's what we do here.
It just, I mean... But yeah, I think the fact that the fact that this has been proven to, be true, that the government does suck at cover-ups, does disprove a lot of conspiracy theories out there. Because a lot of them are where the government has to almost be like a mastermind.
Smart to
No, they're really not, because, like, weather balloon. Need I say more?
Come up with something better than that.
And it is kind of funny that's the one that was proven to be true, is the one that, like, just makes them look so incompetent. So I mean, and that's like inevitably whenever there's a cover up, somebody or somebody's are eventually going to come forward. But then you got these people who just want to cause chaos or get their name in the spotlight, that kind of ruin it for everybody. So you got to kind of muck through the nastiness.
There's always people out there who want to spotlight person right in the middle of all of it.
I don't even want people to know my name. Like, honestly, this was the hardest thing I ever did, was do this podcast with you.
Put your name out there.
Yeah. No joke. I mean, anybody that's been listening probably can tell from like the first videos to like now.
Every time you're like, I'm Matt.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to be here. But no, I mean, it's just it's like I'm just not that person that would want to put my name out there. You know.
Wait now.
Yeah, I know. But like, I wouldn't want to stand up on the stage and be like, "Hey, this is how this happened," or you know, this is. I'd rather piss people off from behind a microphone. Especially Chesters. Fuck Chesters.
Fuck Chester. I agree. Look, I'm getting more confident every time I say it.
I know. You are. I haven't said it in a couple episodes, so I'm like, you know, it's an obligation.
Is an obligation.
But yeah, I mean, Roswell is definitely still fascinates me. I mean, even though we, you know, like I said, we know what happened, it's still just fascinating.
It's such a good story, though.
It really is. I mean, from the start, you know, even the aftermath, and even just the kind of like the government, like almost three stooging it and like stumbling over their own selves. And
that's the thing. Like, you can't honestly make up this story.
I mean, it's so stupid. But it's almost one of those things where it's so stupid that it's almost true type thing where, you know.
Exactly.
So they almost got it right that way. I mean, because honestly, you know, it's almost like so stupid, like obviously and blatant and like a cover up that it almost seems like it's true and not a cover up, if that makes sense. It like kind of goes full circle all the way around. It's
like when you did the Crime or Cap episode where I was trying to figure out if it was literally so bad that it might have been true.
I know.
Because some of them, like, if you guys haven't listened to the episode, there was one, he did this episode where I was trying to figure out, he tested me, and he would give me two examples, one of which was real, one of which was false, and I had to guess which of them was real. And, like, there was a cult, and there was, like, a cult, whether, Matt's just laughing. I'm not gonna forget it.
I know.
Was it, like, it was, like, a cult that, like,
oh, what was it?
Revolved around worshiping the Taco Bell dog. And the other one was like they worshipped like Bigfoot or something.
No, that was the Ant Hill Kid or
the Ant Hill Kids cult, yeah. Which was a real one, by the way. That was freaking real. And I was sitting here and it literally was so bizarre. Both of them were absolutely so bizarre that I sat here staring him down because they both sounded so straight up insane that they both had to be plausible at some point.
I want you to know, like, for anybody that's listened to that episode, I cut out like 5 minutes of her pausing to think about this.
It blew my mind because I was trying to figure out, like, it was so insane that it could have actually been real. And that's kind of where it leads us to here. Like, there are some cases where reality is, in fact, so crazy that it might be real.
Definitely check out that episode because it was hilarious. Yeah. I mean, sometimes the strangest things are like the most believable in a way. I mean, you almost have to get to a certain point where it's like it almost goes full circle, but you're just like flirting with going full circle, if that makes sense, where you just kind of
almost aligned, not quite.
And I mean, that's exactly what I did with that, you know, and I knew that it was.
God, did he know what he was doing with that episode?
It's so unbelievable that it almost seems real. And that's exactly what I was going for, because I knew, you know, because some of the ones that I came up with, man, or, you know, that I found were like crazy in their own self. Like the Ant Hill Kids thought that the world was going to end, but then it didn't because God was in a different time zone.
I'm telling you guys, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. It could be about real.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's exactly how the government kind of got it right, but at the same time, kind of got it wrong. So I think they went too far. And I mean, obviously, we know it was mostly unintentional. I think they just kind of, you know, tripped over their own selves. But still a good story nonetheless.
Great story.
And Jordan thought I was doing cryptids this week, so I had to change it up. I don't want Jordan to know what I'm doing week from week. You know, next week we might do another trivia show.
I don't know what to expect from you. At this point, I just come in and expect to be verbally abused.
Honestly, part of my madness is like I'll usually at the beginning of the week, like after we get done recording tonight, tomorrow, I'll kind of get like 3 topics that I kind of think I want to do. You know, last week I didn't do that because honestly I thought I was going to do cryptids. And then when I sat down to do the cryptids, one of the cryptids I came across was the gray aliens.
Yep, then you got distracted.
Yeah, and then I'm like,
Got
ooh,
distracted.
Roswell. And it didn't help that I was watching that TV show Roswell. But I mean, it's a good story nonetheless. So that's all I got for today. I just want to thank everybody for listening. Just like, subscribe, comment. It really helps us out, especially commenting. But thank you for listening.
As always, we keep you guessing.